Have you ever caught yourself wondering why some of your habits or moods seem to change as the years go by, almost like your body and mind are playing tricks on you? Maybe you've noticed little things that didn't bother you before, but now they do. Or perhaps some behaviors you didn't expect to pick up have quietly slipped into your daily routine. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Aging is a journey full of surprises, some pleasant and others a bit less so. Today, I want to talk openly about some of those less talked about changes, the little quirks and habits many seniors develop as they age. These are the things that nobody really warns us about, yet they happen to so many of us. It's like an unspoken club of senior things that sneak in without much notice, sometimes making us feel a bit frustrated or confused. But here's the good news. Recognizing these habits and understanding why they happen is the first step toward managing them. When we bring them into the light, we can take control and even find ways to improve our day-to-day lives. That's what this conversation is all about. So, pull up a comfy chair and let's dive into a few of these unpleasant things seniors tend to do as they age, things that no one really talks about. Let's start with something that many of us might notice but rarely admit: becoming more stubborn. It's funny how the older we get, the more set in our ways we seem to become. Maybe it's because we've lived through so much, made so many decisions, and felt certain about what works best for us. But this stubborn streak can sometimes make it harder to try new things or listen to advice, even when it might help. Maybe a family member suggests a new hobby, or a doctor recommends a different routine, and instead of being open, we find ourselves resisting. It's not a bad thing on its own. It often shows strength and confidence. But when stubbornness blocks us from growth or support, it can be a bit of a problem. Why does this happen? Sometimes it's a way to hold on to independence or control when so many other things seem to be changing around us. It's natural to want to protect what feels familiar and safe. But if stubbornness becomes a barrier to better health or happiness, it's worth reflecting on how we can soften that stance just a little, opening the door to new possibilities without feeling like we're giving up who we are. Another common habit that sneaks in is a tendency to complain more. Maybe you catch yourself grumbling about aches and pains, the weather, or even how things used to be. It's perfectly normal to have frustrations, especially when our bodies don't cooperate the way they once did. But sometimes complaining can become almost automatic, like a reflex, rather than a moment to share genuine concerns. This habit can affect how we feel inside and how others respond to us. What's important to remember is that expressing discomfort is valid, but dwelling too much on negatives can cloud our outlook and even affect our relationships. Instead of letting complaints pile up, it helps to find little ways to shift focus, maybe by appreciating small joys or talking about solutions rather than problems. It's not about pretending everything's perfect, but about balancing honesty with hope. Speaking of changes, have you noticed how some seniors start withdrawing socially? Maybe it's less about being antisocial and more about feeling tired or unsure about where they fit in these days. Perhaps old friends have moved away, or it's harder to keep up with busy family schedules. This withdrawal can be one of those sneaky habits that leads to loneliness, which nobody wants, but many experience. It's understandable. Social situations can feel overwhelming, or maybe we fear being a burden. But staying connected is crucial for mental and emotional health. Even small steps like calling a friend, joining a local club, or attending community events can bring surprising warmth back into life. The key is to be gentle with yourself, but intentional about reaching out. These are just a few examples of the subtle changes that sometimes creep into our routines as we age. The good news is, by recognizing them, we can start making little changes that brighten our days and strengthen our well-being. You know, sleep is one of those things we all expect to come naturally, something our bodies just do to recharge. But as we get older, many of us notice that a good night's rest isn't quite as easy to come by anymore. Maybe you find yourself waking up several times during the night or falling asleep earlier, but then waking too early in the morning and feeling restless. It can be frustrating, and honestly, it can make the whole next day feel off balance. What's behind this? Well, it's partly about changes in our body's internal clock, something called the circadian rhythm, which shifts as we age. That means sometimes we feel sleepy earlier in the evening, but also wake up earlier than we want. On top of that, health issues, medications, or even simple habits like napping too long during the day can affect sleep quality. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. The good news is there are gentle ways to help your body adjust. Creating a calming bedtime routine, avoiding caffeine later in the day, and keeping your sleep environment quiet and comfortable can all make a difference. Even small steps, like taking a short walk in the morning to get natural light, can help reset that internal clock. It's about finding what works for you and giving your body the rhythm it needs. Now, something else many seniors don't talk about much is how we sometimes start to forget small things more often, like where we put our glasses or the name of someone we just met. This can feel scary or frustrating, and it's often one of the first signs that worries us about our memory. But here's a comforting truth. Occasional forgetfulness is a normal part of aging, and it doesn't mean you're losing your mind. Memory changes can happen because of slower processing speed or simply having more information stored over a lifetime, which means it takes longer to retrieve details. But the brain is incredibly adaptable. Keeping it active by reading, doing puzzles, or learning something new can help maintain sharpness. Also, making simple lists or routines to organize daily tasks can ease that forgetfulness. And don't hesitate to talk to your doctor if memory lapses seem frequent or severe. They can help rule out other causes and offer support. Another habit that quietly slips in is a kind of comfort eating or changes in appetite. Some seniors find themselves reaching for snacks more often or craving foods that bring back memories from younger days. Others notice they don't feel as hungry as before and unintentionally skip meals. Both can affect health in different ways. If you noticed you're eating more out of boredom or habit rather than hunger, try to find alternative activities that bring joy. Maybe calling a friend, gardening, or listening to music. On the other hand, if your appetite is low, it's important to make meals enjoyable and nutrient-rich, even if smaller in portion. Sometimes, sharing meals with others or trying new recipes can spark interest and keep your nutrition on track. These little shifts in sleep, memory, and eating might seem like small things, but they add up and can change how we feel day to day. The key is paying attention, being kind to yourself, and making adjustments that support your well-being. Now, there's another common but less talked about change that can catch many by surprise: the way our moods can fluctuate. Sometimes, without a clear reason, we might feel more irritable or down than usual. It can be confusing, especially if we're otherwise healthy and active. Mood changes can be influenced by many factors: hormonal shifts, changes in brain chemistry, feelings of loneliness, or even the stress of dealing with new limitations. What's important to remember is that it's okay to have these feelings, and there are ways to manage them. Connecting with loved ones, staying physically active, and engaging in activities that bring meaning can lift spirits. And if feelings of sadness or irritability persist, reaching out to a healthcare professional can provide additional support. When we understand these changes as natural parts of aging rather than personal failings, it becomes easier to face them with compassion and patience. And that's exactly what we all deserve. As we continue this honest conversation, there's another change many seniors notice but seldom discuss: the tendency to become more forgetful about self-care routines. It's easy to overlook little things like taking medications on time, drinking enough water, or even brushing teeth regularly. When life feels busier or energy is lower, these habits can slip without us even realizing it. This isn't about losing responsibility. It's more about how our minds and bodies adjust over time. Sometimes fatigue or distraction plays a role, or maybe we underestimate the importance of these everyday habits. The good news is that simple tools can help, like setting alarms, using pill organizers, or keeping a water bottle within reach. Small reminders and routines can make a big difference, helping us stay on track and feel more in control. Another thing that might surprise you is how many seniors start to avoid mirrors or photos. It's natural to feel a bit uncomfortable when we see changes in our appearance: the wrinkles, the gray hair, or that extra weight around the middle. Sometimes this avoidance comes from a place of sadness or frustration, almost like trying to protect ourselves from the reality of aging. But here's a gentle reminder: every line tells a story, every silver strand is a mark of experience, and every change is a sign of a life well lived. Embracing these changes rather than hiding from them can bring a sense of peace and confidence. You might find joy in treating yourself kindly, whether it's with a favorite outfit, a fresh haircut, or simply looking in the mirror and appreciating the person who's gotten you this far. Speaking of confidence, many seniors notice they become less adventurous with new experiences. It's common to stick to familiar places, foods, or routines because it feels safe. Trying new things can feel daunting, and sometimes it's easier to say no than to step outside our comfort zone. But the truth is, staying curious and open can bring excitement and purpose. Maybe it's trying a new recipe, joining a local class, or exploring a hobby you've always thought about. These small adventures don't have to be grand. They just need to spark joy and keep your spirit lively. Taking that step might feel a bit scary at first, but it often leads to the most rewarding moments. And here's something else that often sneaks up: becoming less patient, whether with ourselves or others. It might be that aches and pains make us less tolerant of interruptions, or that repeated questions or slow conversations test our limits. Sometimes this impatience is really frustration in disguise, a signal that we're tired or overwhelmed. When you notice impatience creeping in, It helps to pause and breathe, remembering that kindness, both to yourself and others, is a powerful balm. Taking a moment to step back can transform a tense moment into one of connection and understanding. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing to mention. How many seniors become less forgiving of mistakes, either their own or others? We all want to hold on to dignity and respect, but sometimes that can turn into being overly critical or hard on ourselves for things that really don't matter as much as we think. Learning to forgive and embrace imperfections is a gift we can give ourselves at any age. It lightens the heart and opens the door to more joy and peace. So, as we've talked through these habits, stubbornness, complaining, social withdrawal, sleep struggles, memory changes, mood shifts, skipping self-care, avoiding mirrors, shrinking our adventurous spirit, impatience, and harsh self-judgment, you can see how common and human they are. None of us are perfect, and aging is as much about adapting and growing as it is about change. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect, but to be gentle, curious, and proactive about these shifts. Small changes, whether it's reaching out for a chat, trying a new activity, or simply breathing through a tough moment, can make a big difference. Thank you for spending this time reflecting with me. I hope you feel a little lighter and a lot more understood. If you've experienced any of these habits or have your own stories, please share them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if this conversation has helped, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more thoughtful chats and tips. Here's to living your best life at any age, embracing every moment with warmth and courage. You deserve that.